of the year. First one of
Oh, yeah, I guess technically it
2023.
is.
And for
There you
those of
go.
you cornhole maniacs out there that aren't watching the national championship game, welcome. Thank you for watching us instead.
Well, they might be watching both, right?
Well, I am. It's literally 10 feet to my right.
Good to know. We'll know what happens when you stop listening for a moment where you went. Good point. Yeah, but speaking of that, we do want to kind of spend some time wrapping up kind of 2022 and looking forward to 2023. So Bernie and I both kind of put together some of the things that have stuck out to us so far this season, some players, some shots, some events, just things like that. So we're going to kind of go through those and feel free to tell us what has stuck out to you so far this season in the cornhole world. But I'll start us off. The first most obvious one to me is Caden freaking Allen.
Yeah.
Caden Allen. I mean, is there anyone more consistent in the opens? Because obviously we can't talk about the pro events with him, but Is there anyone more consistent in the opens than Caden Allen?
He is making noise, that is for sure. And, it kind of works perfectly in what we're doing because it's looking back at 20 – and the beauty of the Open Series is when does it start? Like October? So, I mean, it spans both years, so that's perfect with Caden. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Caden's killing it. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there anyone more consistent? I don't know. I mean, obviously Alex Rawls and Mark Richards, a lot of consistent players, but Caden Allen has just really shown himself to be someone to fear on the boards for sure.
Yeah. And, it reminds me a little bit of my first one, like looking at mine. Mine was kind of going into last season, and it was all about like the rise of the rookie class.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't think, with the previous year's rookie class, how impressive that was with the guys and with a few other players that, kind of the old school names that had been around the sport forever that were so big in the sport, could there be another rookie class that kind of surpassed that? And I think the initial thought of me and, someone like Trey or a few others was, well, maybe it might be deeper, but there's no way it can really surpass it, right? Because of those names. Well, it did. I mean, you get a player like Mark Richards. I mean, that's just one name, and he dominated the sport for a year. But then you look at the Trzynskis, you look at the Creep Killers. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, there's literally 10 to 15 names that you can come off the top with that really had significant points during last season, especially during the Nationals and Shootout series. That it just – and then when you look at the depth, like if you go back and look at who requalified as pros, how many of those were rookies, it was pretty impressive.
And do you think this season's rookie class will surpass? Because we've got a great group again.
It's so funny. Before we started having you and Wally and a few others kind of come on ACL Live, it was always Trey and myself. And Trey, was 100%, that was the last big rookie class, right? They're going to have people that shine through, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, but you're not going to have that depth. Well, maybe. I mean, are we going to do it again? Are we going to do it again? And is that now the sport? Because youth has become so important in the sport. Right. Is that now the sport that, everyone coming up has been watching and refining, the old style of play, mixing it with the new styles. And I don't know. I mean, can it keep happening? Like, can next year's rookie class be better? I just, can it? I mean, at some point you think the talent's got to kind of wash out a little bit, right? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, and that may be right because the sport is still considered new, right? So we might have this surge of the rookie class, and it could plateau at some point. But I don't think we've reached that point yet.
No, I don't think we have a Mark Richards in this class necessarily.
Okay,
but I mean, that's going to 20 years from now when they're talking about the sport, that's going to be a season people talk about with how dominant he was. So. Do we have that type of player in this year's rookie class? I doubt it because that's just, those numbers are just so egregious, right? I mean, that's just crazy.
So we're saying, is someone going to get Man of the Year and Rookie of the Year and MVP?
Mean, yeah, that's I just don't see that happening again from a rookie. However, could we have a rookie class that goes 20 deep again with top quality professionals? It's kind of pointing in that direction. So that's just insane to me that there's just that much talent that keeps flowing into the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that one. All right, my second one is open number 2. There was a certain player that really stood out to me and made a really deep run, and that was Courtney Coy. And Courtney Coy, she was one of those names that before I was really involved with the ACL that you heard a lot, and she was a top player in the previous years, and then she didn't perform quite as well in the last couple years, but I feel like she started off this season. If you watched her run in that open, it was incredibly impressive, and it was someone that really stood out. And just watching some of her games, even in that open, very impressive. And she did well at the end of last season, made it to the Pro Invitational. So Courtney Coy. So I'm really curious to watch her this season because I don't think it's a name. You say names like Cheyenne and Sarah and Rosie and Sam and Cameron, and are we gonna be able to put Courtney in that group of women?
Yeah, what was so interesting about that. It was kind of a comeback year for her, right? Because 2-3 years ago, Courtney Coy was, one of the ladies at the head of the class of the women's division, right? She was there. She was an elite female player, and then she just kind of disappeared. And I don't know if it was just lack of focus. There was a huge influx of talent with 2 classes that we talked about that had something to do with it. The games changed a little bit. The dirtier styles of games are even picked up now by her cousin, for example, and someone like Bella Soprinet, where you have players that can play a more well-rounded style of game, if you will. And maybe that was kind of hard for her to adjust to that. But I like Courtney Coy being involved in the mix. I think if she has a weakness, I don't know if she believes in Courtney Coy the way that other people do.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that there's self-doubt there that you don't see with her cousin, for example, right?
Kind of the opposite, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if she had more of that in her, I think she has the game that could speak a little bit louder. But that's all part of the process, right? You find your way back to the pro division. You find a way to stay. You find a way to make it, through the road to Airmail City. You find a way to make it there. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So good for her.
Agreed. All right, go. What's your second one?
My second one was the battle for number 1 in singles last year. You had those 4 guys. I mean, obviously we've already spoken about Mark Richards, but you had Jamie Graham, you had Alex Rawls, who it seemed like it was going to be for at least the first half of that season with Matt Guy. It seemed like they were going to be the guys that kind of separated themselves. And then all of a sudden this Richards guy kept coming. This Richards guy's there. You've got those 2. And then, don't forget about Jamie Graham.
Yeah. What about him?
Yeah, that guy, still pretty good. And the one thing, like we make it through, and Mark Richards has that season. We all know about it. But, Jamie, I thought, had a sneaky good year. I mean, I don't think he would agree with that because he didn't finish number 1.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, especially at the beginning of last season, kind of forgot, that Matt Guy was on this tear in the Open Series, and he was going to restore his name at the top of the game, right? And then Alex Rawls seemed like he was on every broadcast.
Yeah.
Couldn't win, but was there. He was in the Final Four. He was in every broadcast. And then Jamie just kind of found a way. Like, hey, man, don't forget about me. And the one thing I like about Jamie, and there's talk about where the game's headed, what direction, who's going to be the best player, is the game of just, sliding in the hole, shooting an airmail from time to time, is that kind of going away? And, is it going to be, all the roll shots and the cuts and everything? Is that going to be the dominant style of play? I think a play like Jamie's style is going to be the dominant style. He can do anything you want. He can play any game you want to play. And I think Alex Rawls is kind of that way as well.
Agreed.
Any game you want to play, he'll play. And I think that's where it's funny because he's kind of an old head, even at a very young age. I think his style of play at Alex Rawls is kind of going to be the vanguard for the style of play going in the future. You're going to have to be able to hit all kinds of shots. You're going to have to be able to develop a roll bag. You're going to have to be able to cut it, left and right on the board. You're going to have to be able to slide, have a hard push and an airmail. Like, you're just going to have to need all of these things to stay at the elite level going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break and we'll come back with some more moments to look back on and look forward to right after this. All right. We are back with some more moments to look back to. The next one I'm going to touch on.
By the way,
Oh, yes.
if I may interject,
Yes, you may.
just so everyone at home knows that for me, this isn't in any discernible order. These are just 10 things.
No order.
These are
True.
10 things I was thinking about because you know how people are at home, like, well, this was the most important thing, and this was number 7. How can that be? Like, you know. But these are just
in no particular order.
In no particular order. These are just 10 things that kind of came to my mind about last season.
Good call, Bernie. Yeah. Way to get ahead of it. All right. So the one I was going to get into next was Devin Harbaugh's what we're calling the starfish. So this is when he admitted that he wasn't trying to do what he did. He was just trying to make the shot that he was trying to make was fairly simple in their world, not simple in my world.
Right.
But he ended up getting the extra bag off the board and then getting 5 points in that round. And the best part was that nobody realized it was over. Like everyone, like,
what just happened?
Yeah, and they're like walking and like, why are we walking? And like,
is that real?
The math wasn't happening fast enough. Like it's just everything. It was just one of those moments, and it reminds me of an Eric Davis shot where you don't even know what you just saw, and all of a sudden the game's over, and you are like you have to rewind it back because you have no idea what occurred to even happen. How did that happen with the bags, and then B, how did it happen with the math? So that moment with Devin Harbaugh was really big, and I love that he didn't try to pretend like it was on purpose. He's like, yeah, no, it was just extra bonus points.
Don't you feel like Devin, at least for me, he's kind of moved into that? We were just talking about Jamie Graham and Alex Rawls being kind of your 5-tool players that have all the shots. Devin's that guy. To me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're going to slide it, he'll slide it. If you want to play a dirty game, he'll play a dirty game. If he has to hit miracle shots, he's one of, I would say, a handful of guys that can hit them with more consistency than most everyone else on tour. So, I mean, that's probably the reason why a little while ago I had him as kind of my number 1 player in my top 10 right now. I mean, obviously that may change when we get into nationals and depending how he does, but he has all the tools, right? And he's just so fun to watch. And so if you're in that game, right, what do? Someone hits a shot like that you've never really seen before, and you're not used to. You're like, what? Well,
because you in your head you go through all the possibilities, right? On both the person who's throwing and the opposing. You're like, all right, they could do this, or this. Either way, I'm fine. Like I'm sure that's what they were thinking. Like even if he hits this shot, it's not over. We're fine. and then he hits the shot that nobody thought of. Yeah,
by the way, this game's getting really good up here. Just in case you're wondering, it's about to be 10-7.
Really Georgia's not helpful to our audience. If you want to
Yeah.
No, it's awful. This is more entertaining.
It is more entertaining. Don't go. Anyway, so who would you like? Not to get on a tangent here, but who would you go? I mean, Eric Davis, obviously. When you just pure shot makers. I mean, Noah Wooten's on that list for me.
Yes.
Devin is on that list for me. Tony Smith is on that list for me. I'm trying to think. I know there's more. I mean, Jamie's on that list for me.
Yeah, Jamie and Alex are there too.
Alex is on, and that's
and lately, Caden Allen has put himself in that
right.
Extraordinary things.
It seems like watching the rookie class, they're all coming up with that, right? Like it doesn't seem like you have, and I'm sure I'm wrong on this, so don't get too upset at me at home. But it doesn't seem like there's as many just straight slide baggers.
Yeah, I don't think that's something to get mad at. I think that's accurate. I think people realize that they're going to have more shots. And just because you've mastered sliding down the middle isn't enough to really be a big player in the pro field. I think you're starting to just stick with reality there.
I feel myself getting way off on tangents here because I still think even with some of these younger players, and they've made it to the pro division, right? They're among the top 200 some odd players on the planet at this game. And yet some of them haven't mastered the slide.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like they're coming up with all these different shots and they're so good and so creative. I just wish that should be the first shot. Like when you're picking up the game, you should be able to throw 4-baggers almost in your sleep just by sliding it in. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, if you think about practice time, what's more fun, trying creative things or
of course.
sliding down the middle for an hour?
Of course. 100%.
I can see how it could happen. But
I mean, I'll make it analogous. I mean, playing youth basketball, for example, when we were kids. Yes, we should have been practicing free throws when we had our own time on the court, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we should have been drilling ourselves doing certain things. everyone's shooting half court shots, right? Like you've got all this time.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to throw it around their back, shooting from half court. No one's drilling, right? Because you've got this free time for like 5 minutes because it's more fun. It's the same kind of thing. I mean,
oh, it's the same with music. I mean, with guitar, I never practiced like my the boring stuff you had to practice at the beginning. I just went straight to learning songs. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do scales. I don't want to do any of that. I'm just gonna start learning songs. And I'm probably not as good of a guitar player as I could be had I put in the time to those drills.
And that's not fun. That's the way it works for everything, though, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. I mean, you can make it analogous to selling cars. Right. I mean, like if you don't get your basics down, you're going to you might be able to pull some tricks every now and then. But if you don't have the basics down 100%, you're not going to be consistent enough with just pulling this. Anyway, I will go on 100 different tangents.
How about transitioning into your next one, which is Mark Richards, which I don't think is the case there.
No, Mark. But see, I think Mark 100% basic. I'm going to get to where I can slide it in the hole every time. Yeah. And that's what he did. He's now developing other shots in his game. But going into last season, the reason I had him on my list, I didn't know who he was going into last season. I heard this name started popping up. Yeah, and all the opens, kind of like Caden is now, right? This name kept popping up. Who is this guy? And, certain people knew him. The people that were really, really entrenched, and especially from his area of the country, knew who he was and were willing to give information. Right. But I didn't really know until I saw him at the first national who the guy was. And so to have the type of season that he had, and everyone, it's almost gotten to the point now people are tired of talking about it. We beat the dead dog too much, right? It's just it's too much, but it's not. That's how good of a season. I mean, that's how good of a season it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm interested to see how this. I'm just curious. I mean, I don't think there's any way you can repeat last season, but what level? All right, I'm going to give you this as an open question then. Okay. What level down from last season would still be considered a decent season for Mark Richards? And what's the line there? Then if it's below that line, then you're like, oh man, sophomore slump. He really didn't have.
I think it's top 3. I think if he finishes top 3, then you could consider him maintaining because it's such a, like to be 1 or 2, look at the points difference,
Right. No, I agree with that. I would say he has to make minimum 2 national broadcasts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going more specific into like what.
Well, I mean, those points are going to add up. I mean, I think, will he have a bad tournament like he didn't have last year? Maybe. Right. But it seemed like every time you turned on the television watching cornhole, Mark Richards was on.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think you're right. But that's so tough, right? If he finishes 6th, that's still amazing.
I know. You know what's crazy about Mark is that, as far as I know, and I haven't asked him specifically, but as far as I know, he didn't quit his job. I think he could, because he's gotten some big sponsors, right? But I don't think he did. So just like the fact that he's as good as he is and he has a full-time job, you look at some of the more elite players and they're maybe younger or older, and they're not dealing with some of the things that us, the middle-aged category is dealing with. And I mean, it makes you think, like, if he quit his job tomorrow and just started playing cornhole, like, what would that do?
And he's supremely lucky in Shelby. That's her name, right?
Yeah.
I felt like I just had I felt like as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, oh no, that's not her name. I don't know why. I thought, anyway, because she's so into it and because she's such a rock for him. Look, this could be completely different if it was someone that just really didn't care about cornhole.
Totally.
Right?
If they annoyed just, when he went.
Right. The travel, all of that was just annoying and kind of a pain. They're doing it because they love him, but really they don't want to be there kind of thing.
Yeah, but they kind of hate cornhole in the back of their mind.
Right. That would be so detrimental.
I agree.
But because she is who she is and because of he's allowed to lean on her at times and she knows when to give him space. I kind of watch. I like interpersonal dynamics between couples. I kind of pay attention when he doesn't play well. I look over. Is she all over him trying to hug it? Because look, there's times when you want to hug and you want to feel someone's.
There's times when I need to sit alone.
I need you to stand away from me for a few minutes and let me collect my thoughts. Yeah. So I think she's kind of got it all down, and I think she's really, truly an important reason of why he's able to kind of maintain.
That's
the way
a good
he
point.
does.
That's a good point. All right, my next one is kind of piggybacking off my last one, and that's when Tony Smith did the coin slot. Now, we don't know if this was an accident. At least I didn't ask him specifically if it was an accident. But if he looked at the board and saw that sliver of a hole and thought, I bet if I roll my bag, I can slide in this teeny tiny sliver of a hole. If he thought that and then did it, like it's already impressive, but it's even more impressive if he did it on purpose, and maybe he did because he's Tony Smith.
Yeah, those guys. It's funny because football's off. I mean, I can't hear it, but it's off to my right, and I think sometimes the way quarterbacks play, and you watch him throw into these ridiculously small windows, is like, did they even see the receiver when they threw? Like, I think sometimes the confidence level is so high that they. I mean, someone like Tony Smith with his talent and his skill sets, I think he thinks if there's more than 10 to 15% of the hole available to him on a certain type of shot, I think he thinks he can make it.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me either way. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 100% intentional. It wouldn't surprise me if it was maybe a little bit of an accident, because he could have just tried to been rolled and on top. Right?
Yeah.
That would be similar.
And maybe that's a thought process, right? If I do this and it sits on top, perfect. If I get lucky and I get an extra little and it goes in, even better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you wonder. But I mean, what do you think? I mean, I think someone like Tony probably thought of it exactly how you're saying it. Like, you know what? I'm going to try to put it there, and if it goes, it goes. If not, it causes trouble.
Yeah, which is crazy because another player is like, I'm just gonna lay in front. I'm just boarding it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna even attempt to go near the congested.
And I can't remember what was the bag setup, because maybe he's thinking, even if I roll on top, maybe one of mine falls anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember if his bag was on the bottom of the pile or not.
Yeah,
in terms of, but I just know there was a bunch of bags around the hole.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't remember the order of the bags. But pretty crazy when it happened. Created a new term, which is always fun.
What is it? The slot?
The coin slot.
The coin slot?
Yeah.
So to have the coin slot, you have to have a perfectly almost square rectangle.
It was about like this thin.
Yeah.
It was literally just the shape of the bag on its side.
Yeah.
It just fit right in, just like if my son's piggy bank. Think.
It's so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
All right. My number 4.
In no particular order.
In no particular order. Was the creation of teams.
Yes.
I think last year's teams went the way that they were hoping it would go? Probably not. But I mean, you have to have a first season. You have to have data. Absolutely. You have to, though, because you can't do it. There's no way to practice that.
Yeah.
Right. There's no way to know exactly what's going to work, what's not going to work until you do it. And so, but I think the creation of teams in the long run is going to be one of the more important things that happens in the game of cornhole. So for the fact that last year was the inaugural season, I think one day they're going to look back, and then the way it ended, right, with how intense it got at the end, and lesser known names hitting massive shots for teams to win, which I think is kind of the whole idea in the first place, or it's one of the ideas.
Well,
is
even
that
the broadcast.
Did you
remember some of those names that we weren't familiar with on the broadcast? I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh God, this might not go well," and they all performed great.
Yes, and that's what I mean. I think that's kind of wanting to showcase, because it's hard with any professional sport, especially in singles, even in doubles. You're trying to showcase everyone, but you simply can't, because there's just a fact: cream rises to the top. Within the pros, there are still levels of greatness within that level of greatness in and of itself. And some of these people just aren't going to be able to beat these people consistently and get on broadcast the way that an Alex Rawls, a Mark Richards, a Jamie Graham, a Matt Guy, those folks that are always there, that's what makes them special, right? Yeah. But you want to find a way to showcase everyone, and here's a way to do it. And when you see how some of the lesser known names performed under pressure, I think it was awesome for the sport, and I think it only speaks for how far we're going to go in the future with this thing.
And we get more broadcasts for teams this season, so this is going to be really cool. I'm super stoked for the changes they've made, but I think that, like you said, there's always a beta season. All right, we've got more moments to go through. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back after this. Welcome back. We are going through some moments of the 2022 season, looking forward to the 2023. Kind of wrapping up last year and looking forward to this year. All right, Bernie, my next one.
Yes,
I had to go with one of my Cali guys. He's one of those players that we talked about a lot, but people didn't get to really see him outside of California, and that's Vincent Frisch and his big weekend at Open number 4. He did exactly what we all said he could do. So it was cool to see that play out as we thought he would. He teamed up with Devin Harbaugh, which, not too shabby of a partner, but
right.
he also won the blind draw too. So it wasn't just Devin that, he had success with, and he made it far in singles too. So just shout out to Vincent Frisch and the way he showed up in his first kind of big Open, I guess, debut, and then how that translated into getting drafted so early in teams.
I was getting ready to say that, right? I mean, did you go online at all? Every now and then I go online just to see what people are saying about the draft and some other things. I mean, even though, it's not
only
fun.
When I got tagged.
It's not fun to go on and read critical stuff about yourself every now and then, but it was just, I was just curious. And it was funny how upset some people were that certain names went early and the fact that pros were held out. Or,
that's the thing. That's the topic that I kept seeing was that this topic about pros being left out.
But it speaks volumes for Vincent Frisch to be drafted. What was he? Second round pick? Second pick?
Mm-hmm. Second round.
Yeah. Second round pick. So that's just speaks volumes for the amount of respect that 16, I mean, you've got 48 people in there making decisions, and they thought that highly of him.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. And that's what that weekend, speaks to. And especially when you've got Devin, who was a part of that weekend as one of the captains. I don't think that Devin didn't choose him though.
No, he didn't. But when they partnered up, I asked Devin, how did you partner up with Vincent? He asked me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's so hard, right? You're hoping to get this like really in-depth answer, like, oh well, we talked about this and bad chemistry and blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
Like, no, he asked me.
He asked, I said yes. He was the first to ask. I said yes. Okay, well, fair enough.
Cool. Sounds awesome.
You know what? I'm going to ask Devin Harbaugh to team up with me at my next blind draw. Or not blind draw, but BYOP. Let's see what he says.
You think he'll say yes?
Absolutely not. I don't think.
All right. My number 5, and you'll like this. For me, another important thing, and this is, kind of talking about the ladies a little bit, the continued dominance of Cheyenne Renner in the women's division. Bubenheim. God, excuse me. Sorry. First time this year. Just unbelievable. And I mean, look, and it's not like
talking about her,
but it's not like women haven't gotten better and haven't expanded their games and, are getting more and more consistent. She just continues to be elite. I mean, and it's funny, like when you talk to some of the other women and you talk to them about playing Cheyenne, you're starting to get this kind of programmed answer, which I think is almost subconscious. Like, no, I mean, I know I can beat her. Like, I beat her in rounders, right? I mean, so people know they can beat her, like they might beat her in rounders or but when it comes down to it in bracket play, they can't beat her.
Now, do you think she is going to develop some more shots? I mean, she's obviously dominant in the women's field and has been for the last bit here. But if she wants to be top 10 out of everybody, do you think she needs to develop some more shots?
I think so. But I don't know if she can with the bags she throws because they're pretty slick. Now, however, a lot of people play a dirty game where they roll around or they throw a lot of cut shots. I would say her push is what, top 5?
Yeah, absolutely.
Across all, her push shot.
Back in front of the hole, she goes through.
And it's effortless. Yeah. You watch guys throw those shots and you can tell they're winding up, they're throwing it harder. Yep. It almost seems like the exact same motion, but the bag comes out a little lower, a little harder, and she just goes through. And she goes through sticky bags. Huh?
Yeah. Worlds, not this year, but the previous year, I sat behind her in the broadcast. And that's when her push stuck out to me the most because sitting behind her, nothing changed. Like you said, like there's at least subtle changes when people go for a push. Not with her. Nothing I could recognize with my eyes. Right. Like it was the same throw. It was like, to her, it wasn't even there. And it was pretty remarkable to watch over and over and over and over.
Yeah. And I wonder, because she's competitive. She's a sweet girl. She really is. But she's competitive. And I don't think, well, I'm the best female in the game is kind of what she wants. Right. I think she wants to be one of the top 10 players in the world. I think she wants to be on broadcasts as a Final Four in singles. And I think to do that, she's going to have to develop something else.
Yeah.
Another way to score points. Because when she gets around that upper echelon of players, they just have so many more avenues to score.
Yeah.
And they can go hole to hole with her. But then they can create points in other ways, and that's where they tend to get her. And I think she's going to have to. I just don't know if she can do it with her style of bag.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've seen Frank Modlin roll a game changer, so anything's possible.
That's done. Frank Modlin's a magician.
Yes, it's fair.
He's messing with dark forces to where he still can be as dominant as he is at times. But I mean, but her continued dominance, and like I was getting to about women's answers, it's like, oh, I can beat her, but they know they can't. I think that they think they can, but if it comes down to it in a bracket, single elimination bracket play, I don't think anyone knows that they can beat her yet.
Well, I think if you're looking into the future, like, so you're walking up to the boards, if you focused on the future, I can beat her, because if you're looking in the future, there's no evidence that says you can't. I think the hard part is trying to delete the past. Trying to pretend like she hasn't won all the other times, trying to pretend like she hasn't gotten the farthest any female has. Like, you'd have to block out all that data, because your brain is going to be like, you think you can? What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
What about this? Like, and it's really hard to block that noise.
But look, I've heard other female players say, well, I mean, I've got Cheyenne on my side of the bracket. I mean, and they're saying it in a way, kind of in a defeatist way. It's like, yeah, I'm throwing well, but I've got Cheyenne on my side of the bracket.
Like,
it's like, she's already got you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. She's already in your head then, if you're thinking that way.
And so
what I tell myself is, like, everybody has bad rounds. Everyone has bad games. So, it's not like I have to just tell myself that you just never know. So even if you never know. Even if you play your best game, if you're worried about her playing her best game, yes, you'll probably get beat. But if you're playing your best game and she's playing her A- game, hey, you might get a chance.
There's more than a couple players that have the talent to beat her. They just have to believe that they can in a pressure situation. The funny thing is, they'll beat her in a regular bracket.
Yeah.
It's just when it comes down to women's, it's interesting the way that it's kind of playing out. But anyway, I was going to say that
kind of takes me into the next one, which is Sam
Yeah.
Finley.
Okay.
Because Sam Finley is one of those that absolutely has the talent.
Sure.
I mean, she's throwing great this season. I know she had kind of an off weekend in Myrtle, but aside from that, throw that away.
Right.
She's throwing really, really well. And I think she is one that we could see kind of rise to the top there.
100%. Last year was weird to me with all women, why they did not perform well in singles. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, because you can't, when you walk through and look at some of their games, you can't tell me that they didn't deserve, or their talent isn't better than 189th overall. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, exactly. Wow, what's going on? I mean, even Cheyenne. I mean, if you look at some of those singles brackets, she's going down early, fights her way back to get good runs, out of the elimination bracket. But, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because, I've had this debate with the women's game, and some men believe that because of their stamina, they can't make it through a tournament. Well, if you look at the brackets, they're not making semifinals of brackets and then losing.
Mm-mm.
They're losing early.
Yeah,
so stamina has nothing to do with it. I don't understand. I mean, the bag weighs a pound. It really shouldn't be about strength. I
think it's stereotyped by. I mean, I think there's a stereotype that exists. But
it's factual. I mean, if you look at the results, they're just not performing well against the men, and I don't know why.
But if you think about it, it's no different than the research that says that men perform better in mathematics than women. But if you look at the studies, when they put a test in front of the group of women and they say, in the past, women have performed better on this test than men, they test the same. But
Sure.
if they say, in the past, men have performed better at this test than women, they perform worse. So it's no different. It's that stereotype bias that you can't, it is there. So you can't pretend it's not there. You got to deal with it head on. And that's one of the things that I've been really trying to help the women understand is you can scream from the mountaintops. There's no difference between men and women in cornhole, because there isn't, but there is in the results. And that lives somewhere in the back of your brain, and you got to deal with it.
Until there isn't, there is a difference.
Yeah. There shouldn't be, but
there shouldn't be, but there is. And I can't figure it out.
We got to deal with it. Yeah. We got to talk about it. We got to put it out on paper and be like, this is happening. And so it's a lot of mindset stuff. They have a lot of mindset hurdles they got to get over. If I could hypnotize all the women and say, in the past 10 years, women have outperformed men 10-1 in cornhole, I bet you'd see some different results.
Sure. I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it at all. I wonder if the men in those situations are feeling more confident.
Absolutely.
And that has something to do with it. You know what I mean? And that helps their game. So I don't know, but it's baffling to me because from a talent for talent perspective, it shouldn't be happening, but it is. But we got sidetracked again.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
All right, you got your next one.
Mine is the PPR debate. I love the stat. I think it's a great way to measure players, but obviously it's not the only way to measure players. But I think there were times last season where people got kind of caught up in their own PPR. And it was almost as if they were playing for a PPR score than to win. Now I know that's not the case, but you can almost see it in people like, well, my PPR was this. Yeah, I lost.
Right.
But my PPR was this. And it's like,
you talk about Facebook when they're posting it after a tournament.
Yeah. And it's like, well, okay. And that's all, and I get that, that 10.75 is an amazing PPR, but were you doing anything to stem that 11.25 on the other side?
Well, and by the way, you could throw out of your mind, but the person next to you can also throw out of their mind, and your 10.75 can lose to their 10.9.
Right. So. And if that's happening, you have to switch it up. You have to then get creative, and then you have to play the game more than one way. And then, it's funny when you go online again and then you have people that blast it, like it's the most meaningless statistic out there. And, the better carpet players are always going to have lower PPRs, but are better players. And, I don't necessarily disagree with that statement.
That's not always true, though. Like a Tony Smith can throw an 11.
Sure. If you get what have we said about Eric Davis? If someone could just convince Eric to throw over a 10 and then to be creative when he has to be, I think he becomes unbeatable.
Yeah, he gets bored.
You know what I mean? But there's so many bags on the board at times, you can't get them all in, so you're going to have higher PPRs. I just think it's an interesting debate. Then we had to come up with the DPR, which I think is a more relevant statistic when it comes to how you're performing wins and losses wise.
Field, yeah.
But it was just interesting to me how it started out as this thing that I could almost tell that people were just like, I'm trying to get my PPR up. It's like, well, are you trying to win?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway,
that's a good point.
I just found that to be a very interesting piece to last season.
I like that. I didn't think about the fact that they use it kind of as I didn't win, but that's a good point. Interesting. All right. We got more coming right after this commercial break. See you soon. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
By the way, I think our football people are coming. This game's already getting out of hand.
What do you mean?
It's 24-7 in the second quarter.
Oh my!
Yeah, right. I think Georgia's gonna they're gonna take it easy in the second half. I think this game's over. So expect more people to come in here in our last quarter.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, interesting. All right, so talking about moments that have stuck out, another one was at open number 3, and that was Noah Wooten. Noah Wooten, open number 3, reminded me of, and I don't remember which open it was last season, but there was a time, maybe it was the first or second or third, or maybe it was even the national, but there's a moment when we thought nobody would beat Matt Guy. I think I even had a hot take where I was like, Matt Guy wins everything from now on the rest of the season. Like, that's how dominant he looked. And that's what I saw of Noah Wooten at open number 3. He was so dominant that you kind of got that feeling of like, oh my goodness, who was ever going to be able to beat Noah Wooten? So really, really great showing out at that open number 3 from Wooten.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of love lost there between those guys. I mean,
no.
I would.
Yeah, specific names. Yeah,
there's some rivalries that exist there, but I mean, I love Noah. I love Noah as a player. I wish Noah could get that locked in all the time.
Yeah.
I think there are times, and I don't think it's intentional. Obviously, I think it's just there's times when he's completely locked in and focused, and there's times when it's just that little bit off. And at this level, that little bit off is a big deal.
Big deal, yeah.
And but I love when he's locked in. He's one of my favorite players ever to watch.
Yeah, agreed. From the jump. All right, what do you
got? Number 7, the road to Airmail City.
So fun.
That was a really good time. It was such a great look. Mother Nature didn't really cooperate.
Oh, I'm so glad I wasn't at that event.
If you were watching online, it was Les Miserables, man. It was awful out there. It was 117, I believe, air temperature. Then the sun with all that turf, and oh my, who knows what it actually was on the turf? I think it was like 125. It was unbelievable that the players had to fight through that, and it was brutal. But it was such a cool experience to kind of finish in your top 8. Kind of here's your reward. You're going out to LA. You're going to Shamar Moore's backyard. You're going to Airmail City. You're going to throw down out there. It was so cool. And I'm not sure if they'll be able to make that happen again, because logistically, I think you want something like that to be on national television.
Right.
And they just don't have the capability to do it from his backyard.
Right.
But I maybe in the future if we can find a way, but I thought it was so cool. And I know the players did. And then it wore me out, man. My health isn't what you would call great. And when I didn't really get a chance to get out of the sun very much there for a few hours. So when we were done, it was amazing how tired I felt. And I didn't do anything really. Just the emceeing nonstop.
Sucks everything out of you.
Brutal. It was so brutal. But what a cool experience for everyone involved, and what a cool experience to kind of have them involved.
Yeah. How unique.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought it was such a cool experience.
Agreed. All right. My next one is Rosie Streaker. Rosie Streaker. Obviously, everybody loves Rosie. Her little family is so cute. I loved when she got drafted and her little kid, the Blue Bears. I mean, couldn't be more proud to have Rosie Streaker on the Cali Slingers. But what a strong start she's had this season. She's throwing in the 11s often. Often. It is remarkable.
But don't we go back to what we were just talking about, like before the last break?
Yeah.
Like why isn't Rosie Streaker going farther in open bracket? I mean, in regular brackets.
Right.
I don't get it. Sense. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's crazy.
No, she should be. All right. What's your next one?
Mine is the rise of the quote unquote named shots.
Oh, like the coin slot, and the
coin slot, the penguin. What are some others? You just
are you ever on TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a video posted on the ACL TikTok, and it got like over 2 million views. So there's a lot of comments, and everybody is so mad that we have names for our shots. They're like, "Oh, this stupid sport! Like they have like 5 names for like the same thing." Like they're so mad about it.
Get over it, man. What I mean, they're awesome shots. I mean, the bar of soap. What a great name for a shot. Yeah,
they're not the same shot.
But it seems like, and we talked about the rookie class last year, and now the one coming up. It seems like they're all so proficient in these shots.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? Like there's a certain element of player, kind of the old school player, your Matt guys, your Damon Dennis's, guys of that era. They're never trying any of those shots. They don't throw the bag hard. It's never going to happen, right?
Yeah, you got.
But it seems like every kid that's below the age of 25 is looking, is trying to find a moment to throw a bar of soap or to attempt a penguin. I mean, it's crazy, and it's kind of taken the sport by storm a little bit. I think it's kind of cool.
I think it's fun to have the names keep getting invented. Like, I don't know of any other sport that I'm involved with or like watch where we're still naming things that are happening, right? Like, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not like a big sports person outside of.
I just don't know how much we can continue to do. I mean, at some point, physics is going to dictate that you can't do certain things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't take one bag and knock all four of theirs off the board and go in the hole. Like, what's that shot going to be? Like, at some point, we're going to run out of things that are possible. But
that's normal, right? Other sports, it's the same thing. Like, we get to a point where, okay, we've named all the shots that can happen, and then it's just how elite is everyone at those shots, right? But
sure.
So I'm curious to see where that ends.
I think people just don't get it. I mean, just because our names are cooler, like, look, tennis has a drop shot. They have a lob. They have names for shots.
They're just angry. They were angry that the guy was wearing headphones. They're so mad about it.
Just get over it. Feel the love. It's the cornhole
They're
love.
Funny. If you ever want to be entertained, because I'm assuming it's Haley that's responding to these comments, watch her responses are hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think someone's like, "Why? Oh, they're wearing headphones." Yeah, they are. Get over it.
I mean, right? Like, okay. But they don't have a coach. They don't have a coach yelling at them from the sidelines to run play X. I mean, like, that's not happening. It's okay to stay in your head. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So there's some entertainment for you. All right, we got one more commercial break, and then we'll wrap up the rest of our moments right after this. Welcome back. We've got our last few moments to talk about. And my next one is from the draft. I did get to walk around in that war room. Is that what we call that? The war room?
Sounds good.
That was a new term I learned. I did not know that's what that was called.
That's from the NFL draft. That's what they call the war rooms. They call when all the people get together and discuss their plans.
And I will openly admit that when Nick puts the draft on every season for NFL, I make sure I'm not watching it because I think it's pretty friggin' boring. But hopefully we were more entertained than the NFL draft.
Wow, man, tough crowd.
Do you watch the NFL draft? Like you watch the whole thing?
100%. Well, I watched the first few rounds for sure. I watched the first round of the first night.
All right. So you kind of get it. All right. Anyways, when I was walking around the war room talking to the different captains and looking at what they were doing, I was so impressed with their preparation for this draft. They had spreadsheets, Zoom meetings, open calls, computers. Like it was a whole thing at their tables. And I wasn't at the last one. You were like, so you being at
it was different. It was very different. It was, having so many people there, having the multiple captains and then, your team managers, it's very different. I think it was much more, especially with certain teams, you could tell they were really going through it. They were really going through how they wanted to make their decisions and what their plan was. I think it was a giant leap forward from the captain perspective.
Yeah. So that was a really cool moment for me. And, some of the feedback we got about the draft was that they wanted more of those interviews. That was not something we had really discussed. Like we kind of threw it out like, hey, and then I could get some interviews. But now we know for next season that's just where I'll stay.
And Trevor Brooks wants you to know, thanks for not interviewing the Carolina Coasters.
He's coming on Bagging and Bragging this week. I was actually just thinking, I'm on this show this week. I'm covering for Wally. It's supposed to be him.
Yeah.
And then around the ACL, and then Bagging and Bragging.
You're everywhere.
You have me on borderline, so I'm every day because people are got to be so sick of me.
Well, it's you are. I mean, that's going to lead into my number 10, by the way.
No, you changed your number 10,
as far as you know. I mean, you're that person, but no, I don't think that. It's hard because it wasn't planned for us. It wasn't. No. It wasn't scripted like, oh, it just worked out like, hey, we've got us. You're really good at doing those kind of interviews. Why don't we do this? Why don't we and then all four of us are there doing it together. So, instead of, one person just kind of sitting off on the sidelines doing nothing. So it worked out pretty well. Yeah,
it worked out like towards the end when I was like, I should just stay out there. But had I known I would have done it at the beginning, and we know for next time. But but I did get to walk around that area quite a bit, and it was really impressive to see all the preparation. So. Cool stuff.
I think it's pretty cool, like, and people being upset that certain names got left off. If you're one of those names, please don't take this the wrong way, but maybe that's a hint. And I know it can be somewhat of a popularity contest, but maybe they're saying get better.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I mean, they were going through numbers. They were crunching numbers. They were going through names.
It was not random.
It wasn't just
thought.
It wasn't just laughs and silliness back there. It was real work. So
it was stressful.
That's a hint for you folks that maybe didn't quite make it to do something to get your name more out there. My number 9 is the gauntlet that has become the pro qualifier. I love it. I mean, yes, it wasn't exclusive to last season, but it just seemed like it was another giant leap forward into last season and how intense it was. I mean, and you can feel it in that building, and that's a big building, and you can feel it as soon as you walk in there. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can almost taste it, how intense it is, and the screams from different parts of the building, at different times. It was so cool, and then the way it builds and builds and builds. And then how, the emotions, good and bad, that you saw. I mean, I saw more than one person, walk off and shed tears.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I can't remember, were you on the streaming court with me for that? Because I actually felt like I went back to my hotel that night and felt bad because we were being silly because we were delirious.
Yeah.
Like nothing about what was happening was that like we were a different energy than their energy. And I actually felt bad. I'm like, they might be upset watching that back because
we were delirious, and I felt bad, but you don't know what to say because you could see certain people were like, I can't remember who it was. I'm not going to call them by name, but I could see they were crying. And it was right, it was our streaming court, and it was kind of off where they'd already started picking up the boards.
Yeah.
And they sat in one of the seats, and you could tell they were, crying because I think they missed it by a match, right?
Yep.
And it's hard. I mean, a lot was on the line. And just to see what it's become and how important it's become. I mean, you go through the World Championships and all the massive tournaments that were going on and all the massive results. And maybe the one thing that seemed like most people were looking forward to in a way was the qualifier. So it's an amazing experience.
I think they might have been excited for it, but the moment they walked in the room, it went from excited to something else.
Oh, yeah, for sure. 100%.
I remember the first one, not this season, but last season that I went to. I was excited. I'm like, ooh, pro qualifiers. This is going to be great. I walked in the room and I was like, ooh, whoa, don't talk to anybody.
Right. Yeah. This is a lot on the line for a lot of these people.
Don't make eye contact. Just head down and walk.
So true, actually.
All right. My last one is Alex Rawls. We did touch on this, but just how dominant of a player he is. I know that he gets mad if you put him at number 2. He's like, why not number 1? Like he is definitely gunning for that number 1 spot. He wants to be the MVP and all of that. And he definitely has the talent to do it. No doubt. I think Anthony's the one that said like his ceiling's here and his floor is here. Like,
so true. It's so true.
There's nothing. There's no gap, which is pretty remarkable.
No, and Alex is maybe 10 to 12 bags from being MVP.
Oh yeah.
Because he was so deep in so many tournaments. If he has a few more bags here, wins a couple more matches there, he wins 2 or 3 nationals in singles. He wins a world champ. Like he's right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it wasn't. He was right there. So, it's impressive. Almost as impressive as Mark Richards, because I think Alex Rawls was pretty much on every broadcast we had, it seemed like.
Absolutely. It was like right there with him. And actually, you're going to hear Trey give a hot take on Around the ACL that involves Alex Rawls. That's pretty hot. So you have to look forward to that tomorrow.
Interesting. Yeah. I will definitely be turning in. All right. All right. So that leads into my last one, which was hiring new content team sensations like Michelle Thompson. Was that my number 10? It was originally my number 10, but now my number 10, the comeback. 20-2. Wasn't that the score?
20-2. Yeah, because I was in a game that was 20-2 like a few days ago and won, and Nick's like, you're just like Jordan Power and Jay Rubin. I'm like, yeah, I'm just like them, as you know. Just like them.
We had to beat Mark Richards and Philip Lopez Jr. to do it.
Exactly.
That will remain. That becomes the story that gets passed down in generations in this sport, right?
Yeah.
You got your friends telling you on the side, don't give up because.
Yep. Power Rubin did it. 2022 down. It's there. It's possible. Keep your head in it. That's going to get passed down for generations in this game, and I think that's just such a cool moment. I hate it for Mark and Philip because obviously it's never something you want to get remembered for, but just for Jay and for Jordan to have that, I can't imagine what that must feel like to know, because looking at the score, it's 20-2. Yeah. You're telling yourself just stay in it, but deep down you're probably thinking, man, what a run. I can't believe we didn't, we weren't able to pull it off. But then a couple misses here and there. Yeah. It was such a cool thing to experience. And it was a combination. It was a combination of Power and Rubin hitting shots, but it was also Richards and Lopez missing shots they don't normally miss.
100%.
It was just this perfect combination for Power Rubin to get the points they needed, which was
because as hard as that win is, like you're saying, losing, like how hard a loss is that when you're up 20-2? You don't even have to really be perfect.
I know.
You know what I mean? You can just kind of put bags in front of the hole and make them hit crazy shots. You do that enough rounds, they're going to miss 1 or 2.
Yeah, you would think.
And it just didn't work out that way. Such a huge moment at such a huge stage. It was so cool.
I agree. Very, very cool moment. All right, Bernie, we did it.
We did it.
Went through 2022, 2023. This season, beginning of this season. We haven't actually gotten through 2023 yet. We are about to get into it. Big event next coming up is the Super Bowl, the shootout finals. It's going to be in February in Arizona for the Super Bowl weekend. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to see what celebrities we get to play. Those are always so fun because what I love about the Super Bowls is that the audience actually gets excited when they do everything.
Right.
They get on the board. Yeah.
It's exactly. It's such a cool moment.
It is.
Especially for you. You get to interview everybody.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a little different than interviewing college players.
Yeah. But the college kids are good interviews.
They did it better than a lot of the pros.
They
were more talkative than I expected them to be.
It's part of the college experience.
Good. All right, that's all we have for you this time. We will see you guys all next time, and keep throwing bags, and good luck, everyone.